Sick and tired of your love-hate relationship with wine?
Welcome to the Feel It Alcohol-Free podcast. Hi, I'm Coach Ruby Williams.
And I'm Coach Susan Larkin.
We're two former wine lovers turned alcohol freedom coaches, exposing the lies about alcohol.
And giving you, our listeners, the tools to break free so you can feel lit.
And when you're lit, you'll feel healthier, freer, and more in control of your life.
So relax, kick back, and get ready to feel lit alcohol-free.
And don't forget, grab a copy of our wine-free weekend guide after the show. Welcome. I'm so excited to record another episode, and we have a special guest today, Colleen Clifford. Welcome. And I'd like to introduce, she's a commercial fisherwoman for 37 years, and Colleen was able to mask her binge drinking habit, but always underneath, she knew the patterns weren't how she wanted to show up in the world. So I met Colleen as one of her coaches, and she made some amazing mind shift changes. So if we were going to title today's episode, it's about binge drinking, but we want to get to know Colleen. So let's start. Colleen, will you just share a bit of your background on your alcohol-free journey? And let's get to know you.
Absolutely. Hi, I'm so happy to be here. This is just fantastic. So yes, as you said, I was a binge drinker. Excuse me. I also was a binge eater, but that's a whole nother story. But the binge drinking started as it really escalated in college. I did go to college for a few years, but because of my binge behavior, I dropped out of college. And and I didn't put the two together for the longest time, which is kind of interesting. But I met a girlfriend after I dropped out of college who was a commercial fisherwoman. And we went to a bar, of course, and she's like, "Hey, Col, why don't you come fishing with me?" And I was like, "Well, what is it?" I had no clue. And so it sounded adventurous. And I was like, sign me up, because that's my personality. And I pack my bag and I get shipped off to a boat, and we're sailing to the middle of nowhere. And so with the commercial fishing, we work under contracts. So we work a long period of time, maybe 2 or 3 months. We stay on the boat. And then we have 2 or 3 months home. And that's the problem for me. Yeah, it was great for traveling. It was a great lifestyle. I didn't want to have kids or get married at the time. And so, work hard, play hard. And that is what we did. The problem is that when I would play hard, I'd start to question my drinking and I'm a binge drinker, so I'd get myself in situations that I was not proud of. And I'd start thinking, wow, maybe I should quit drinking. Then I'd get on the boat and alcohol's not allowed. And so I wouldn't drink for 2 or 3 months. And we always called the boat the floating rehab, because so many of us partied hard and we'd get on the boat and we'd dry out. And so then my thought process would be, oh, I don't have a problem. I'm okay. I have my life together. I'm not a bum on the street.
Right.
Can take care of myself. So then I'd get home. As soon as the boat would hit the dock, I kid you not, we would go straight to the bar and have a binge. And God knows what, some stories I have from that. Oh Lord, it's too many to tell. But, so I just participated in that behavior for years. And
yeah, I can really relate. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can.
Me too.
And the other thing is,
Oh,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's just so typical of the gray area drinkers or binge drinking is that you can take time off but then you go right back to the same behavior, sometimes worse and worse every time, right? Yeah. But then you think, because I can take time off and no problem, then I don't have a problem. So It keeps us stuck for a long time.
And did you notice, I don't know, this happened for me, is I was always looking for validation from my friends, mostly because my family really had no clue what I was doing with my life. They just knew I was on a boat and then I was home. So, I'd show up to the family things and what have you, but I was always put together when I did that. But little did they know, maybe I was partying till 3 a.m. the night before. So my friends would just validate. And I'm not blaming them or anything, but I would reach out to them and, oh, how was I last night? Oh, you weren't bad, Call. You just drank too much. You haven't been drinking for a few months, so your tolerance was low. And, you didn't really do anything too terrible. And so that kept me, oh, okay. So I guess my friends still love me. I'm not that bad, And so, but I'm entering my 60s now. So in my 40s and 50s, it was like, okay, this has to stop. Like, this isn't pretty anymore. It's not the person I want to be. I want to, it's just not who I want to be. So that's when I really was, And then I had one episode with binging, because as we know, as bingers, you don't plan things that happen because you're not planning to drink. And so I had my very last day of drinking was an unplanned afternoon binge that turned into a 3 a.m. get home binge, get home. My partner the next morning gave me a look that was like, and I knew I was in trouble for myself and for my relationship. He didn't say anything. We didn't actually talk about it for a couple of months because he was just so furious. And and that's when I ran into this Naked Mind and was like, okay, I was a little scared, honestly, at that point, because I thought I'd be able to quit drinking because I'd done it before, but I was just having this, it just kept recurring. Yeah. And I really had a period of, oh my gosh, am I going to be able to stop? So,
yeah. Oh, wow. Your story is so interesting and relatable. I guess what I'd love to do is go and explore the definition of binge drinking and why is it so dangerous and how is it so dangerous? Because I think maybe people don't even understand what the definition of it is. Yeah.
Yes. And as it's a gray area, it's easy to, but the two definitions I've found, one's from the dictionary, Merriam-Webster, and I'm just going to read it off to you. It's an unrestrained and often excessive indulgence. And so in the sense of eating or drinking, it's just, we went on a binge drinking, so too much of it. But it also obviously could be like we say, oh, I binged on TV, or so it's that type of behavior. But the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism defines it as a pattern of drinking alcohol that brings blood alcohol concentration to 0.08 grams of alcohol or higher. For a typical adult, a woman, that's like 4 or more drinks in 2 hours.
Right.
So that's a binge. And then it usually continues. I mean, who stops at 4? Honestly, I didn't. So I don't know. Maybe some people do.
I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the definition of a binge. And did you want me to go into the dangers of it?
Yeah, please. Yeah. I'm very interested in that and what you've come up with. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this was a big one for me. Not prepared to get home. Injuries, another one for me, car crashes, ending up in a compromising situation, falls, me again, medication interactions, alcohol overdoses, you could commit or become a victim of violence, engaging in unsafe sexual behavior, missing commitments, waking up not knowing where you are, of course, feeling horrible the next day. And the biggest one, I feel, well, I guess there's a few really big ones in there, is the blackouts, memory lapses. And
so scary.
And the blackouts is, I don't know. I don't know. I can't really say. I know I've had blackouts before where and some people might say, well, what's a blackout? And that's just where your memory is stored in your hippocampus, the region of your brain. And when you consume too much alcohol too quick, it interferes with the neurons in your hippocampus so that it can't allow them to consolidate the short-term memories. And so it just it just can't keep up with it's trying to get rid of the alcohol out of your system. So it's like, whoa, overload. And so it just can't store those memories in your brain. And so it depends on each person's different on your body size, how you metabolize alcohol, and that thing. So some people might have more blackouts than others. Some people may never have blackouts, but it's a memory gap in your evening of drinking. And there's also blackouts that can happen that aren't alcohol related, but this is alcohol related blackouts.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I understand blackouts is like from a person watching someone, you look normal, you're talking, you're moving, you're operating like you're awake and making memories, but you're not making any memories. That's to me is so scary. Yeah.
It is.
So sad.
It is.
Yeah. It's like your subconscious brain takes over your behavior, not your prefrontal cortex isn't engaged. And what does John Mulaney calls it? It's like your brain is offline, but your body just keeps soldiering on. So you're just out there in the world doing stuff, and your brain is not engaged. So it's sort of like you're brainless, as far as
Isn't
what
that
you're doing.
Terrifying? I know, because
terrifying.
Yeah, your friend will tell you, "Oh, this is what you did yesterday," and they're like, "I did. Oh my god,
I wouldn't."
Really?
Or like, I would never do that, but you did it.
Exactly. And if that's not a reason to stop, oh my gosh, I just.
Well, they've normalized that though. All the things you were talking about, the dangers of binge drinking, just made me think of college students.
College.
How normalized binge drinking is in college. And then all of those scary things, and especially girls or young women in college being susceptible to compromising situations, and it's just awful.
Very scary.
And it's so normalized to binge drink, when you see the kegs and that's, it's glamorized, and just getting the word out about it. Also, it can accelerate alcohol use disorder. Binge drinking accelerates the disorder. So you're going to go faster to getting to a point where you really have a disordered drinking problem. And, and that's something people should know, because like if you're engaging in binge drinking in college, you are probably more likely going to develop an alcohol use disorder.
Yeah.
If not then, later. And especially if you don't stop drinking, even if you like switch over to wine as a young mom or something in the 30s, that's just what we're seeing in different clients now is women in their 30s having liver problems because of the now normalized mommy drinking. It used to be kind of, you drank in college, then you became you got married, became a mom, and like drinking, at least in my story, drinking wasn't really part of my story when I was a young mom. But I was my kids are in their late 20s. So it was before the whole mommy wine culture. Then the mommy wine culture kind of came along, and everybody goes from college drinking to drinking as a mom to parent, And it's just too bad to see that happen. And then,
I'm so glad you brought that up, Susan, because the college drinking was a huge part of my story. And
I'd love to hear that
on a trajectory. Well, because of the binge drinking, I would engage in activities that weren't safe for me. And I wouldn't show up for class because I'm not really a type A person. I get things done, but at the end of the day, when I'm not feeling well, I'm not going to soldier through. And I wouldn't show up to commitments. And so I ended up just having to drop out. And I didn't tell my folks for the longest time because I was terrified to tell them. And I had this story in my mind that they were going to not love me anymore. But once I finally did tell them, it wasn't as bad as I had anticipated. But with the passion of the binge drinking in college, I want to take this message to college students. And as a coach, that's the direction I want to go, to be supportive, because it can ruin your life. One bad choice can ruin your life.
Absolutely.
And especially around alcohol. So
that's that's an area of people.
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Colleen.
Well, and as you mentioned, Susan, I really believe, and this is just a hypothesis, but if I hadn't gotten the job on the boat and been physically removed from being able to drink alcohol, I would have been on that trajectory because I had no awareness of my issue really. It wasn't really in my consciousness then. And so, but then it kind of created that other problem of gray drinking, like, the back and forth of I have a problem, I don't, I have a problem, I don't. But at least I wasn't a continual, I think it helped save my liver a bit because it had time to recover. And that's the other thing about
you would heal,
detox.
We talk about that. Detox, detox.
Yeah, exactly. And now as I'm aging and I'm into my 60s, I'm really into the brain health because I never considered it before. As a young person, I just took my brain for granted. And now I have a family member with dementia and I'm just really into brain health. And alcohol and brain health are not cohesive. It's just the damage we do to our brains. It's just, if I could go back and relive my life, just taking more care of my brain, I just wish I could. That's a big regret I have.
Yeah. Dr. Amen, when he says, why don't I drink alcohol? Because I love my brain.
And you know what? That's what I tell people now. That's exactly what I tell people now. I took the Dr. Amen course too. I love him.
I love him.
I'm a brain warrior.
This is new information. Yay. I know. Well, it's new information though. They don't teach you this even in DARE or whatever. When we don't really learn that alcohol is a drug, right? We don't learn that it's something we need to be careful around. I mean, I want to go even earlier than college into the high schools and the junior highs, and even how do you talk to your kids about alcohol, and then like what behavior are you modeling for them? Do they see you come home from a long day and drink, and that's like, oh, this is what parents and adults do when you're stressed, what are we modeling? And just be very clear that alcohol is a drug and it's something to be careful around.
I would love to
I just want to mention that, Colleen had this, the binge where she had like 2 weeks off or however long she was on the boat. I had the weekend thing. So I would take the whole week off and then drink on the weekend. That was my detox to retox cycle. Same though, then it would be sometimes okay, sometimes only 2 or 3 glasses, if we went out, but then other nights on the weekend, usually one of them would be enough alcohol that you would be considered binge drinking. So if you can, 1 bottle of wine in 2 hours would be considered binge drinking. And I think there's a lot of women out there that are like, oh, I can drink a bottle of wine, no problem, by myself. And it's like, okay, but not realize that actually is binge drinking.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
What do you think are some tips?
Oh, go ahead. Oh, yes. Some tips.
Some
the
tips
first tip
on how
people may not want to hear is stop drinking. Yeah. Okay. So did you hear that one? The stop drinking? Yeah. That would solve all your problems. But, the tip that really helped me, which I don't know if it's one, so for my pattern when I was home, I would start wanting to drink around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And fortunately, it wasn't a 24/7, I want to drink type of pattern that I had. But so what I would do, I would eat. I would eat something of substance, and it really, for one, it filled my stomach. So I knew that if I drank, I wasn't going to get that buzz as quickly. And I'm a calorie conscious person. I like to stay a certain size. And so it would be eat or drink, right? And that's what a lot of women do, I think. And so oftentimes so I would eat, and that would actually take away my craving. And almost 99% of the time, I would not drink at that time of day. But I'd have to eat more than just like cheese and crackers. I would make a solid meal, and then I could ride it out. I'd go for a walk after that or something. I have a lot of hobbies, and so it would be distracting myself after that point. But eating was the number one for me. Another huge helpful tip for me that worked for me was having non-alcoholic beverages in my fridge. The times that I just really, really, really wanted a beer, I was a beer drinker. And there's many great ones out there now, thank God, because the last time I quit drinking, there was only one option and I didn't like it. So
what are some of your favorites?
I like the Athletic Brew. is my favorite. Yeah.
Good one. Yeah.
They're also a wonderful company. They actually sent me some beer one time. I was doing a health workshop at a place, and they let me promote their beer. So that was cool. I was kind of shocked. They brought it to my doorstep. That was so cool.
Wow.
Anyway,
that's so great.
Yeah. So non-alcohol beverages is another huge helpful tip for me. That worked for me, and maybe it could work for the listeners. I didn't finding alternative activities. You could set limits. That one never worked for me, but it does. I have a really good friend who does set limits, and it works for her. So setting limits.
Will you describe that? What does that mean? To set limits?
That means that she only allows herself 2 beers in an event. Like, say we're getting together, the girls are getting together, 2 beverages, and she spaces it out. She's very I'm impressed by this. She'll space it out, and then she'll also drink water in between the 2. And she stops at 2. And I just
good for her.
Yeah, more
good.
Power
Yeah,
to
good
her.
for her. That wasn't my. Yeah.
For me, after 2, it's like, okay, bring it on. Everything's out the window, right? So that didn't work for me either. And then the other one is to get support. I really am a person who likes to do things on my own. It's like, oh, I got this, commercial fisherwoman. You can imagine, I'm tough, I'm strong, I don't need any help. But I finally reached out for help in my journey, and I just it was just incredible. So reaching out for help is another tip. If you're not doing it on your own.
Those are great tips.
Those are the ones.
I don't know how many times your whole dinner then, not just like you said, cheese and crackers. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I actually
early dinner.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great plan for weight control as well, because I believe we overconsume in our society, and food. Well, lots of things, but food especially. And I learned that on the boat, because I cook on the boat. I don't think I said that. I'm the chef on the boat. And so I can eat whenever I want. Yeah. So I just learned my normal eating habits are, and I didn't even know I was doing this, the 16-hour fast of I just eat breakfast around 11, and then I get really hungry around 2, and I would eat dinner, and then I'd snack something, a lot of times it's sorbet. At night. And so, but whatever, right?
Yeah.
Whatever works. No, I love that.
It really works. It's a great thing to incorporate in your life. My mom's on it now, so I'm glad she's the 2 meal kind of
awesome.
diet.
I'm on the 2 meal as well. I intermittent fast.
Are you?
Have my
well, I think I had to also remind myself that it wasn't just one. Like, I wasn't like your friend who could just limit. I tried that. I think it depends on when you get off the train, as we talk about the alcohol use disorder train. And at a certain point, if you get off earlier and your disorder hasn't gotten so far, you may be able to engage in the limiting. Everybody is different. I just couldn't do that. I actually have a pretty low tolerance. So even one drink would get me tipsy enough to then, forget it. All bets were off, and then kept going, right? Just reminding myself that it's not going to just be one, and that, surrendering to that and just saying, okay, this works for me in my lifestyle. Like your first tip, which was just quit, embrace an alcohol-free lifestyle. Yeah. The very first one was, but that's eating, right. Definitely with clients, I say, if they're eating normally and don't do I don't do a 16-hour fast, just have a protein snack around 3 or 4. If you start to have cravings around 5 or whenever, late afternoon is when you start thinking, because it's low blood sugar, the affect in your body of the low blood sugar can trigger the thoughts of, of what, the remedy is alcohol to get your blood sugar under regulation. So a handful of nuts or cheese stick or whatever is something that really helps people. But distraction too, when you are in that craving cycle, distraction is a great
Yeah. A lot of
resource too. Yeah.
that one I hear a lot too.
Yes.
That worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, Colleen,
Susan,
is there,
go
ahead.
I was just going to say, Susan, with the point you made about it wasn't going to be one, that played in my head as well, especially when I was at a point of being tired of my behavior. And that was the hardest part for me to accept in my whole journey, because I wanted to drink and I wanted to moderate.
Right.
And for years I kept trying and failing. I mean, it wasn't like every time I drank, I binge drinked. It was the surprise time that I wasn't planning on it. And so once I realized, okay, I have to just stop. And that was once I finally accepted that, then it was pretty, I don't want to say easy, but it got a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
important. That surrender. Mm-hmm. And that cycle though, just kills your like self-worth. That's what it was for me, is I just was hating myself. But for me, I was also just like, I wanted to be normal. And I just saw like, oh, if I don't drink, I'm not normal, because you know what I mean? And I was really in that black and white thinking, which is a myth, that, once I learned that, oh, I am normal, my body and brain is reacting to an addictive substance the way it should. So I actually am normal, and I can just throw that out the window. And then like, what's the best for me? It came to that place of acceptance, like you said. And then, okay, now what am I going to do about it? Taking responsibility. And then what is the best thing for me, which is to just stop this cycle of keep trying, it's like the definition of insanity. Keep trying the same thing and getting the same result. It's like, okay, I finally give up,
And so, and for me, it was also about.
Well, I love that question. No one's ever asked me this, but I have tried to exit the commercial fishing industry for 37 years. And it's just
ever since you started.
Well, just about, but it's a love-hate relationship. And so it's, one time I stopped for 5 years and was a realtor. One time I stopped and became a dog groomer. I mean, but I just inevitably someone calls me and says, hey, do you want this job? I mean, it just, and I would, wasn't making so much money grooming dogs. I was like, okay, I should probably finish. Not ready to retire yet, that kind of thing. So, but as far as the drinking bit, I don't think it was my job. I think it was me.
Okay.
And so it was, and that's the thing with drinking. It's, sometimes I would say it's my friends. If they wanted to go to the bar, great. But, I'm going to say no.
Yeah.
At the point
that's awesome. So it sounds like, and I'm so excited asking, but I love to ask our guests.
Well, that's, I do a lot. I am a Gemini. I don't know if you know about Geminis, but we're kind of crazy people. I love to ride horses. I'm entering my 60s. This is the happiest time of my life, this decade. I'm so excited. I ditched alcohol in my 50s, and I just so realized how much fun I can have not drinking everywhere I go. And I'm just so happy to have this opportunity. It may sound corny, but every day I'm just so happy to be healthy and alive. And it doesn't take much for me to feel lit, because I just feel so blessed where I'm at. And I don't know if this is helpful to your listeners, but I'm just so happy to be me and be here and be alcohol free. And also now I'm trying to help others find their lit, because we've been conned our whole life, right? That we need alcohol to have fun. And we're this, that's the message to share with people is, we don't need it. We don't need it.
We don't need it.
Don't need it. I love that. I love that so much. That. Giving back. Helping others, getting the message out there. That helps you feel lit. I know every time I talk about it, I feel lit, My little signature line is, it's a lifestyle, not a life sentence. Because people think of it in that terms, like,
that is great.
I came up with that when I was talking to my brother once when we were on vacation. He was just like, why are you doing this? I'm like, it's not like everybody thinks of like, oh, it's going to be horrible if you stop drinking. I'm like, no, it's not. It's
exactly.
So,
mention that.
That's beautiful.
Yes.
Both of those are beautiful. Yeah. Okay. So they can find me online at Colleen excuse me. My business name is purepotential.health. So I do have that website. I did open an Instagram account. So my business is new, a couple of years. So I'm new to the social media thing. So I have an Instagram account, purepotential.health. I'm embracing that. And yeah, so what's new for me, because I have 4 more years to fish, and then I'll actually be able to step away from that. And so right now I work about 5 months in the industry. And so when I'm home, I've been working on developing workshops. So I'm offering a free virtual workshop on crushing your cravings. And that's coming up May 18th. And if you want to sign up for that, you just can go to my website, or you can just email me at Colleen, Colleen at purepotential.health, and I'll just shoot you the Zoom link. It's only going to be an hour. And so I want to get really, really good at these workshops and take them to like the YMCA. I have a lot of visions. I don't have enough time.
Yeah. So it's a good thing we have energy, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the beautiful thing is entering my 60s. I feel like I'm ramping up, not slowing down. And I just love that.
Me too.
So
awesome.
Yeah, I just love it. Yeah. I'm excited.
Well, thank you.
Act 3s.
Yeah, exactly.
Act 3 so much, Colleen. This has been great.
Well, thank you. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Yeah,
Bye.
It's been great.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to Feel Lit Alcohol-Free Podcast. Do you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show?
All you need to do is head over to Apple Podcasts and do 2 simple things. Leave a rating and review telling us what you think of the show. And in that review, ask us any questions you have about breaking free from wine or living an alcohol-free lifestyle.
That's it. Then tune in to hear your question answered live. Don't forget to grab your copy of A Wine-Free Weekend at www.feelitpodcasts.com.
And remember, do something today that will help you feel lit.
See you next time.